Today, I had a great conversation with divorce coach Kate Anthony. Kate is the host of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast and the creator of an online coaching program called Should I Stay or Should I Go? She helps thousands of women make the most difficult decision of their lives. Kate's just released her new book, The D Word, Making the Ultimate Decision About Your Marriage. Her book provides clarity, peace, and answers women need to make empowered decisions about their marriages, break unhealthy patterns, and build the life they truly want. Today, we talk about our own experiences of going through divorce, and Kate answers some of the many common questions her clients ask her when navigating this often painful and very challenging process. I hope our chat leaves you with some answers you've been seeking if you yourself are considering or going through a divorce. Welcome to Let's Talk Love, the podcast that brings you real talk, fresh ideas, and expert insights every week. Our guests are the most trusted voices in love and relationships, and they're here for you with tools, information, and friendly advice to help you expand the ways you love, relate, and communicate. We tackle the big questions, not shying away from the complex, the messy, the awkward, and the joyful parts of relationships. I'm your host, Robin Ducharme. Now, let's talk love. Hello, friends. Welcome to Let's Talk Love. I'm so excited to be joined by my new friend who I've worked with a number of times, and I just love speaking with you and learning from you, Kate Anthony.
Thank you so much, Robin. It's so good to see you. And by the way, your sweater is for those not watching, and just listening. Robin has the best Christmas sweater on. This is not an ugly Christmas sweater. It's a beautiful Christmas sweater.
Thank you so much. And you know what's really funny is that it lights up.
No, stop it. I love it. Okay, I'm obsessed. It's so cute.
I was looking for an ugly Christmas sweater, and I really lucked out on this one because I actually really like it.
It's really pretty.
Agree, but hey,
whatever.
Thank you so much. No, thank you so much. So, Kate, I have been diving in and read your book over the past week.
Thank you.
I am so blessed and grateful that I work with one of my best friends who helps me with preparing for our podcasts. And the best part about it is we get to just go through the material together and talk about what we both learned and gained from it.
So good.
Share our own personal stories. We're both divorcees. How do you say that word?
Divorcees. Yes.
I'm going through my second divorce right now. Kate.
Oh Jesus, I'm so sorry, Robin. Yeah.
You know what? I'm in the trenches right now. I'm actually through the trench, and now
okay.
I'm on the almost on the flat. That's how I feel about this. But I know what it's like, right?
Listen, there is another side, right? And you know this if you've been through it before. Like there is another side. Like you do get there.
There really is.
Yep.
And when I was like this all started, I guess in June. Now we're in December. And you know, the really hard. It can be a long time for a lot of people. For me, the months and months that felt like a lifetime. But I know that people that are listening, it could be a longer journey. But you're right, and I think what you do is profound. And I want to say, Kate, I know you're helping so many people get through this incredibly painful process.
Yeah, that's all I want. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I just want to help people.
I know you're doing it. You're doing it.
Really.
Your new book. So today's the 14th of December and your new book is coming out on the 28th. So that's only 14 days.
26th. 26th.
Oh, 26th.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, we're on the 12-day countdown. I know, it's crazy.
Okay, so your book is called The D Word, Making the Ultimate Decision About Your Marriage. Before we dive into this, I want to talk about, I think it's so important that we share our stories because through our own stories, this is where, you know, you've come so far on your own journey in this. And now because of your learning and because of all the work you're doing, you are able to help people overcome what you've already overcome, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, tell us your story. How did you end up
Well,
becoming an expert in helping people navigate divorce?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, my, it sort of started, as with all of us usually, right, with my own divorce. And, what I've learned now is that most people agonize with the should I stay or should I go question for an average of 4 to 5 years.
Wow.
Like, it's a long time. People do
That is a
not
very
do
long time.
this. Yeah, this is not like willy-nilly. This is not like something that we're just like on the spur of the moment, like, oh, you know what? I think nobody wants this. Nobody wants to get divorced. Nobody like sets out for this. And so I think it's really, I struggled with it for years as well, as most people do. And eventually I really felt like there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way to cut this. Like, nobody needs to suffer for years and years. And so there's got to be a better way to move through this. And, I became a divorce coach because, I obviously went through my own divorce, and I lucked out. I happened to have had a pretty volatile and terrible and abusive marriage. But I lucked out in that I divorced somebody who really just was like, okay, let's put our shit aside and focus on our son,
Yes.
And that was truly, honestly, luck of the draw. I don't think that you can necessarily predict. I mean, I think you can certainly predict when it's going to go really badly, right? But it's hard. Like, I have a friend who's getting divorced right now, and I would never have pegged her husband as being as abusive and insane as he's being about the process. And he is being insane. Putting up cameras, like, just like, come on, like, no, there's no need for that. For what? Like, to watch her do dishes? Like,
Wow,
and
right?
right. So, and I would never have pegged. He's like the nicest guy. So, like,
Supposedly.
supposedly, right, exactly. And so I think that it's very hard so anyway, I had this really, by the luck of the draw, I divorced somebody who was willing to put everything aside so that we could then just do this in the best interest of our son. And so a lot of people are asking me how I did it. And I was kind of like, well, we just put our son first. Like, it's quite simple, really, right? Except that what I learned over time, right, as I was, talking to more and more people, was that what if only one of you is putting your children at the center? What if the other person's putting them squarely in the middle and using them as pawns? How do you, and so, it's been a journey over the last 12 years of, building my business and sort of learning more and more and more. And that, I really am, I'm a learner. I listen to people's stories. I keep getting certified in things. I was like, suddenly domestic violence was like everywhere. And I was like, oh, I literally don't know how to support my clients in going through this. And more and more and more and more of them are going through this. And what is happening? And so I went and got certified as a domestic violence advocate. As my mother says, maybe I'm a victim's advocate. Not, I'm not advocating for domestic violence. I think it's weird that we call it a domestic violence advocate, but whatever. These are and then I became certified as a high conflict divorce coach because I was dealing with so many high conflict divorces, so I don't know if I've answered your question. How did I get here? I don't know, Robin.
It's been a journey. And I think that's the other, like, I feel the same way about myself. I'm in this business, this relationship business, and I am a learner. I am like, I don't tout to be an expert in anything really, but I'm on this journey with the rest of us. Right. And what I love about this, so I was so blessed in my first marriage and divorce, to be surrounded by like incredible people and incredible support, family, friends. We did it very amicably, very lovingly. We were very deliberate and intentional, but it takes two to tango. I understand that. But one thing that I was talking to Kirsten about, my best friend, about this podcast and getting ready was the fact that, we didn't have your book when we went through this the first time.
Right.
And
right. Me neither.
Don't have the support of friends or family. And this is like, divorce coaching right here in one book. It's like a Bible for divorce. And I think, and you do, it's full of research. It's full of, experience that you've had with your clients. And I just think it's an excellent resource for somebody going through this, because you're answering a lot of questions. Of course, you're being asked these questions all day long. Right, Kate?
Yeah, right. And every chapter is a question that people are asking, right? I tried to really name the chapters things that, the questions that you're asking, right? Like, is it him or is it me? I don't even know who I am anymore. Why are women so unhappy in their marriages? Right? Like, just on and on. Like, am I being abused? I feel like I'm going crazy. All of these questions, what if they're an addict or mentally ill? Like, is he a cheater or a sex addict? So I really tried to cover as many of these questions as possible, because there are recurring themes that I hear over and over and over again. And when you're experiencing it, it's only you, right? And you feel so alone, and you feel crazy, and you feel isolated. And what I wanted this book was, I wanted someone to open the introduction and open the table of contents and go, oh my God, she has answers for all of these questions. These are the questions that are swirling through my head.
So let's go through some of these, please, Kate. So the first question that you are addressing is it me or is it him? Right? Is it them or is it me?
Yeah.
And I think we're, especially women, we're so hard on ourselves, and we internalize, right? We're the caregivers predominantly, I would say, right?
Yep.
And it's
That's
like,
true.
it's me. I am. And if
Oh,
you've got a partner that's going like,
it's you.
It's like, I don't know what the problem is here, sister. Like, look at the life around you. It's funny because that was what I was getting back when I was, over and over and over again saying, I'm not happy. We need to work on this. We've got how many therapists we've worked with. And it always came back to me. It's like, well, Robin, you're not, you got to look at the positives of what's around us, right? Look at our life. We've got friends, we've got family. Look at our beautiful home. Look at the blessings. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? I am the glass half full, glass overflowing person.
Right.
Positive person. And I look at life from a positive lens. That is who I am. But and it's question, is it me? Am I just being some spoiled or unreasonable person to want to have a healthy relationship? Like, I want to have something out of this relationship that I'm not getting a lot.
Right. That's right. Do I just have unreasonable expectations? Am I just a miserable person? Right. Like, all of these things, because very often if you're in a relationship with someone who is gaslighting you like that and is not hearing, look, if you're in a marriage and one person is unhappy, it's an unhappy marriage. Yes. And if your partner comes to you and says, I'm unhappy, your literal job is to say, oh no, what can we do to make this work for both of us?
Right.
Because
what can we do? How do we fix this?
Right. And if the response is, look at everything we have, what's wrong with you? Why can't you just see, count your blessings, just be grateful or whatever? Your needs are being dismissed. You're being told that what you want and need in your life and relationship don't matter.
Right.
And that's and
then I'm not
okay. That's not
okay. I have to change my mind in order
that's not okay. Right. Yeah. Right. That's not okay.
And so how do you, like, what are some signs? You talk about this. It's like, if you are, if you're in like confused, like that's like, so tell us, how does somebody get to this place where, okay, actually I'm not going crazy. Okay.
No. Right.
And
that's right.
It's okay for me to be unhappy and for me to voice that unhappiness. What are some other ways that you help your clients to identify, okay, it's not just me?
Well, so, I think there are a couple of things, right? First is that we have to do the self-work, right? Because we do need to know, like, oh, do I need to go to therapy for myself? Like, am I just a miserable person? Do I have depression, or is my marriage making me depressed? Do I have chronic anxiety, or am I being gaslit so much that I'm actually developing an anxiety disorder? All of these things, we have to get in touch with that part of ourselves that knows. And part of the design of a large part of the design of an abusive relationship is to disconnect you from the part of yourself that knows and has the answers for yourself within yourself. Because you've been taught, like you said, I'm not happy. There's something wrong. What's wrong with you? Everything's perfect. Look at the life we have. So then we discount our feelings. We disconnect from our feelings. We begin to dissociate from everything that we actually know to be true. And so the first thing we have to do is get back in touch with that, right? To just try to reground in yourself and who you are. And then you can start to look at the relationship a little bit more objectively, right? Then we can start to look at, okay, what is a healthy relationship? If I know my truth, and I know that I know my values, I know what matters to me, I know who I am, I know how to set healthy boundaries, all of those things, and this still isn't working.
And I know how to communicate, Kate. That's another one, right?
Right. And I know how to communicate how I feel. I know to keep it in I language, and I feel this, and right. And you're still not being met, right? Then you want to talk about, like, okay, so, part of this is that we keep looking at the other person. Like, well, he said this and he's doing this, and, they're making me feel blah, blah, blah. And what I want to do is keep the focus off of all the things that they're doing for a minute, and look at, like, how does this relationship make you feel? How do you feel in this relationship? In a healthy relationship, I have a healthy relationship checklist in the book. In a healthy relationship, you should feel supported, right? You should feel lifted up. You should feel like your partner is interested in you as an individual, as a separate being. You should feel that they they support and foster your relationships with other people, right? There's all these things that you should feel in a healthy relationship. And if you don't feel those things, then it's possible that the relationship is not healthy, right? You should feel physically safe in your relationship. You should feel that your privacy is safe in your relationship, not because you're hiding anything, but because it's yours. Right? Your phone is your phone. Your diary is your diary. And your partner should not be up in it without your permission, because it's yours, not because you're hiding anything, but just because it's yours, right? Your relationships with friends and family should be supported and encouraged. You should each have sources of emotional nourishment outside of the relationship, and that should be okay, right? And on and on and on and on. Yes. So if you don't feel all of these things, then your relationship might be unhealthy. If you on the relationship checklist I have, if you answer no to like a lot of them, more than like 2/3 or something, then you're probably in an abusive relationship. And then we can get into that, because it's about power and control. Power and control. Always. Always. Yeah. And then we can look at what they're doing, because then it is important to look at their behavior and understand what the behaviors are. Right?
Right.
What do these various forms of abuse look like? The number of women that I talk to every day who don't know that they're being financially abused because they don't know that they should be entitled to have access to all of the accounts that are in the marriage? They don't know. Right? And they're being
it's just shocking, Kate. It's absolutely shocking that is still going on, and it's so prevalent. And that is something that you advocate, which me too. I mean, with all my best friends, with all of us, I'm just like, I remember like one of my friends telling me a little while ago that she doesn't have her own account. I'm like, that's bullshit. Are you effing kidding me right now? We are mid-40, like you are a 46-year-old woman and you don't have your own bank account. What the hell? Like you need your credits. You need all of it. You need your own money, period. I don't like, your state, she's working too. And I'm thinking, why is
oh my God, what?
Account? You need to be taken, let's just say, and I'm not a person that like, I don't mean to be speaking and then you need this, you need that. But it really is like, you need to protect yourself and you need to have your own assets, right? Anything could happen. And it's like,
absolutely.
You need your own money. And so
you need your own money, you need your own credit cards, you need your own credit. So, financial abuse, like 90% of, I get the numbers that are in here, but financial abuse, I think accounts for something like 90% of, here we go. Financial abuse occurs in 99% of domestic violence cases.
Yeah.
99. Victims of financial abuse collectively lose a total of 8 million days of paid work each year. 59% of people's credit is negatively impacted by their abuser, and 70% of domestic violence victims are forbidden to work by their abusers. Like 99% of domestic violence cases, and that includes emotional abuse, right? Domestic violence includes emotional abuse. Yes. So it's a really big thing. I love the women who are like, well, he says it's his money. No, babe. It's both of your money. If you're married, they're marital funds. That's it.
Yes.
It's both of your money.
Yeah. And
unless you live in a country where it's not, but
well, yes.
In most Western, cultures, it is.
And it may take time to untangle that and, so that you do get your money. But there are ways and there's strategies.
Right. And to the point, if you don't know what accounts that you have and if your name isn't on all of them and you actually don't even know what accounts you have or where they are, that's a problem.
Yes.
That's a big problem.
Yeah. And so you are like when you're coaching women predominantly that are in this situation where they're like, okay, I've realized I'm in a bad situation. I need there's so many things I don't know that I need to know. So and that's the other thing. Actually, I just wanted to mention this about just time and timing, because obviously if you're in a very unsafe situation, you need to get out. Like that is your number one priority. Get yourself out and get your children out. If you have children, that's an immediate.
Yeah.
Let's say you're not in an unsafe environment, but you do know you need to leave. Okay.
Yep.
Your next job is to take this very seriously, that you're in research mode. You're in detective mode.
Yes.
You're doing all you can to figure out the answers that you don't have, that you don't know yet. To
That's
put
right.
yourself in that position where, okay, now I feel confident. Okay, I know this.
Yes.
Like you have to, right? So that's what you're coaching people on, right, Kate?
Oh, absolutely. And I talk about it in the book. Like you must, because one of the tools that an abuser certainly will use to control you is, misinformation, right? So they'll say, shocking. But they will say, you'll never see your kids again. And unless you have actually been to an attorney and know that that's complete bullshit, it's the number of women that I hear say that, like, well, he said I'd never see my kids again. And I have to say, like, that's literally not how the law works, right? Literally not. So get to know how the law works.
Right.
Learn how it actually works so that when he says, I'm going to take your kids, you're never going to see them again, you can go, that's nice, dear. That's just not how it works. What else you got?
Right.
You're never, I'll take, you'll have no money. I'll never give you any money and you're going to have to leave the house and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Again, not how the law works.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Right.
I hope that this isn't the way you want to do this, because it's going to cost our children's college funds for you to figure out that this isn't how the law works. So, it's knowledge, knowledge really is power in these circumstances.
And that's really where you concentrate a lot in your book around, it's getting back into your power. I know in my own relationship, it's like, I'm a strong, smart woman, and this is not uncommon for us to lose our power. And it's just, it happens. It happens like I think about it as like a sink that's trickling water. Yes. And over time, you don't really know what's going on, but then you realize, oh my God, and then you're debilitated by fear. Yes. So it's going to take some time, but it is about getting back into self-reflection mode, and the other, and gaining your power back. And it may not happen like overnight, but it will. Once you're in that place of awareness first. And then, once once you're in that place, okay, now it's like, okay, you're just going to be, like you said, a silent observer.
Yes. Yes. And having that, really have, when you have been so disempowered, right? And it happens to all of us, happened to me, happened to you. We're so disempowered. We lose ourselves. We feel like a shell of our former selves and all of the terrible things. And then once you start to regain that by learning to reconnect with yourself, by, connecting with your intuition and strengthening yourself, and then strengthening yourself with knowledge. And listen, I will tell you, the women that I work with are fucking powerhouses. Yes. They are literally, they know the law now. They are they're their own financial analysts and forensic accountants. They work with the attorneys so much that they understand the law. They know strategy, the spreadsheets, and these are, many of them had been stay-at-home moms who felt completely disempowered, who had lost all sense of self, and they are badasses now through this process. And I think that is just one of the greatest things. It is one of the most amazing things to witness, is these women not just coming back into their power, but going beyond, right, stratospherically, just boom. And these are women that they didn't know that this is who they could be. Yes. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it really is. So you made this, you made a mention of this at the first, when we first started talking around the studies. That this was fascinating to me when I read this about how women are sorry. This is based on your interview with Leslie Bennett, right?
Yes.
And she's the author of The Feminine Mistake.
Yes.
And she can tell us about that study, please? Because I was just fascinated when I read that, Kate.
The happhetness? Who's happiest? Yeah. Yes. So they did the study, and they determined that of cis hetero people, the very, very happiest people in Western society are married men, then single women, then single men, and the least happy people on earth are married women. So you've got married women are the least happy and married men are the most happy, which basically tells you all you need to know about how marriage works for women and versus men, right? So women, this is in my chapter, why are women so exhausted in their marriages? Because marriage benefits men on the backs of our labor, whether it's emotional, domestic, who's
physical, who's all the kids' appointments, who's doing all the travel, who's planning for Christmas, who's wrapping all the gifts, who's buying all the gifts. I mean, the list goes on.
The list goes on. Exactly. Right. While we're busy doing all of that, even as working women, they are getting ahead in their careers at, exponential rates because they have the time. And they also, PS, have 3 hours more leisure time a week than we do. Why? Because we're doing all the work.
Right.
Like, how often, Sunday morning they wake up and they go play golf while we take care of the kids and we do the laundry and we clean the house and we blah, 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 right? Or they're, they come home from work and they go to the basement and play their video games.
Yeah. And I think, the other thing that this book is not just for coaching people through divorce, because I think if, the other thing, there are marriages that, once identifying a lot of these things, it's like, you might be like, okay, actually we need to work on this. And if you've got a partner that's willing to go the distance with you about all these things that you feel imbalanced about, let's just say,
yes,
your marriage could possibly be saved. Right. But I think it's pointing out that this is what's going on in our society, and it still is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
So it made sense to me that the unhappiest population were the married women. It did.
It makes sense to all married women. All women who have been married go, no shit. Right? And the men are like, what are you talking about? Marriage is great. Like, yeah, dude.
Right.
Because of me.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
Absolutely. And, and thank you for saying that, because, I am not pro-divorce.
No.
I am pro-healthy, happy, and equitable relationships. And women are not happy in their relationships. And it is not just our job to fix it. It is the collective. There are two people in this relationship. And if one of them is not happy, it's not a happy marriage. And it's both people's job to fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something that you address in the book big time, is about children. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there is still this belief. Of course it is. It is, we can't break up because of the kids.
Right. Right. Yeah. Bullshit.
I mean, first of all, I grew up with my parents who fought nonstop.
Right. There you go.
I remember them getting back together, like on, maybe, by the 7th time. And like, even every time they get back together, things are good for a couple of weeks. And then, the shit would hit the fan again. And here we go. Dad's packing a suitcase. We're not sure where he's going. But you think that was good for us? Absolutely not.
No, absolutely not.
But what about, anyways, but, and then there's, of course, the families where, you never did witness fighting because the parents are they never fight. So, but maybe they were unhappy behind closed doors. I guess what I would like to know more about, because you do talk about this in the book, is the research that of course you're sharing with us around, should I stay for the kids? Right?
Yeah. The answer is no, for a variety of reasons. Number one, that's a lot of pressure to put on a kid. And I'm not saying that you're saying to your kids, we're staying together for you. Although that's been said. But they feel it. Listen, kids know everything. If you've ever had a kid, you know that they know everything. They have bionic ears and they have bionic intuition. They literally know everything. And so the idea that you're hiding this from them is really naive. These kids are being raised in, in homes that don't feel good. And then they go to, Susie's house and their parents are like having fun together and they're doing this together and they're doing that together, right? And even if you're like satelliting your spouse and you're like, one of them's doing pickup over here, the other one's doing this, and then on Sunday I'm going to take them, and then on Saturday I'm going to take them, and you're not actually spending time together, and you're calling that a family. So even if it's not toxic, if it's not happy, the kids either are picking up on it or they are embedding this as the definition of family and marriage.
Yes. And you're teaching your children that this is what a healthy relationship looks like. And
that's right.
Of course, we model what our parents.
That's right. That's right.
When we grow up. Yeah.
If you don't want, when I say to my clients, is this what you want for your kids? Do you want your kids to have this marriage? And they're like, oh my God, no. And I'm like, okay, then that's your answer. because that's not, then you're not, listen, it might be a short term, I don't want to disrupt their lives or whatever, but you want to look at the like long-term effects of children living in dysfunction. So, there were these studies done that said that, children from divorce, there was this one book that was written years ago. Unfortunately, not even that long ago. It came out in 2000, I think, in which this woman did this research and basically was like, all kids from divorce go on to have like long-term relationship problems. They become addicts, alcoholics. They do worse in school. They have anxiety and depressive disorders, blah, 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 blah. Well, it turned out that her like research group it was not peer reviewed, and the subjects of the study were all from the same county in the same state in the United States. And most of them had domestic violence happening. Right. So it was like, this is not a study. This is like a microcosm of dysfunction. So these kids were gonna be messed up no matter which way you slice it, because they were experiencing toxicity and domestic violence in their lives, whether married or divorced. And so that's the larger research, the bigger research that has been done. And by the way, these are the studies that abusers like to pick up to keep victims in their, abusive relationships. Well, no, the studies say that you can't leave me because, it's going to mess up our kids. So you better stay. Again, knowledge is power. That's not what the research says. That's what one flawed study said. And so what you want, and maybe a few others, but, in recent years, the broader data suggests that it's not divorce that screws up kids. It's toxicity, whether it's in a marriage or in a divorce. And
yes,
right. So listen, even if you are the only one who's committed, because then the next question that people say is, yeah, but I'm willing to, do the best for my kids and not be toxic. But he says that he's going to take me to court and drag me through court and do all of these terrible things. Right. And you can't control what he's going to do. You can't control what the other person is going to do. But what you can do, but by the way, staying in that marriage under duress and threat is not healthy. That's very dangerous for everybody involved. And so you have to understand that if you stay in a toxic relationship, your kids, even if you think you're, running interference, you're mitigating it, you're, protecting, you're not. What you're doing is you're keeping them in it 100% of the time. And you're exposing them to this toxicity 100% of the time. Because most courts, certainly in the US, really favor 50-50, the likelihood is, unless there has been physical violence, that the spouse will get, it'll be 50-50. So even if you only have them 50% of the time, you are giving them a place a safe place to land 50% of the time. You're giving their central nervous system time to decompress. And you're giving them the gift of perspective so that they understand what the difference is. I feel this way at dad's house and I feel this way at mom's house. What feels better? Right. And that way you give them, the gift of choice in their future. They get to choose when they're older, what kind of relationship they want. If they are in toxicity all the time, they don't have choice. That is what they'll choose because that's what they know. And you're telling them that's love.
Yeah. So tell me, how do you have this as part of the book. How do you tell the kids about the divorce? How do you communicate that to them? Because Yeah.
Well, there's like, it's long, right? There's the before, yes. there's the actual there's the prep for the conversation, there's the conversation, and then there's like the after the conversation. And telling the kids is a really hard, look, it's the hardest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah.
The hardest thing you'll ever do.
I remember that in my first, it was, thankfully I had a partner that was like, we had a day, we had a plan, we were both,
yes.
ready, because we were so concerned about how they were going to take it.
Sure. That's right.
Probably not the case for a lot of people, but you do have some tips for that.
Absolutely.
It's being honest, right? But it's not.
Not too, but like, appropriately so, right? So, I mean, the first thing is that ideally you want to tell them together. Ideally, you want to get on the same page. Ideally, you want to agree on the narrative. Your kids don't need to know. I hear a lot of people are like, the kids need to know the truth. The kids need to know the truth. I'm like, well, whose truth? What is truth? Oh, okay. The kids need to know that you had an affair. Okay. Is that true? Okay. So you want to tell the kids that I had an affair? First of all, like, no, right? Secondly, why did I have an affair? Was it because I've been emotionally neglected and abused for the last 10 years and like verbally abused and all of the things, right? So we're going to talk about like which truth, where does the truth begin? Where does the truth end? What is truth, right? The narrative is, as much as possible, like we love each other. We just are not in love with each other anymore, or this just doesn't, it doesn't work for us anymore. What we told our son, he was 3. So we said, Mommy and Daddy, we have a really hard time getting along, and we get along better when we live separately and we are in 2 houses. Tell them. You have to tell your children it's not their fault, no matter what. You have to tell them, because children are naturally self-centered. Yes. Because they have not developed their prefrontal cortex yet. They do not have the ability to think outside of themselves. They think the entire world revolves around them, and that's developmentally appropriate. So you got to make sure that they understand that this is not, their fault. They didn't cause it. There's nothing they can do about it. They can't control it. So ideally you want to sit down together and have this conversation, but you really want to have a whole bunch of stuff hammered out first. You don't want to leave them hanging. Like, you want to be able to answer their questions. They want to know where they're going to live. So don't have the question when you don't have the conversation when you don't know. Well, I'm not really sure, honey. No, we haven't decided that yet. No, decide those things before you tell the kids, right? And this might mean that you're sleeping separately in 2 separate bedrooms for a while, and you can have the conversation that, like, you know what, we're having a little trouble getting along. We need a little bit of a timeout. We're, depending on the age of your kids, sometimes people say daddy snores, and that's fine. But if children know that it's not because daddy snores, if children know that you're fighting like cats and dogs, not naming the things that are happening under their nose is gaslighting them. So you want to name the things. You know how mommy and daddy have been fighting a lot lately. I know you've seen that and you've heard it, and I'm sorry. So we're going to sleep in separate bedrooms for right now, because we just need a little space, and we need a timeout from each other. And if your kids say, "Oh my God, does that mean you're getting divorced?" You can say, don't say like, no, honey, no, right? Which is most of our impulse, right? Like, no. But when you say that, then you make, then you're lying. Because then when you do get divorced, they're going to be like, you said this wasn't happening, right? Mm-hmm. So you might say that's one of the things that we're talking about. And we don't have any answers right now. When we do have answers, I promise you'll be the first to know.
Right.
Right. You want to agree on a narrative, that whatever that is, but usually it should involve no blame. It should involve zero blame.
but you can, like, you say this over and over, Kate, in your work is like
Mhm.
reminding everybody, all you can do is keep your side of the street squeaky clean.
Mhm.
Okay. All
That's
you can
right.
do is
Yep.
control yourself. You unfortunately, you can't control the narrative if it has to be, if that other person is not able
Right.
or willing to be like,
Mhm.
in my
Right.
case, it was your mom's decision. It wasn't my choice. And I'm going, well, I had no, I could not control that narrative, right? As much as I
Right.
wanted to. And
Right.
I'm just in my mind and in my heart, I was like, in time, my children are going to, as they get older, they're going to see, like, it's not
They'll
a
figure it
blame
out.
game. I
That's
wasn't
right.
happy. And the other
Mhm.
thing, Kate, that I wanted to mention about this, because you talked about how, the other thing I did want to say is, like, once, the dust settles and your children, when they're living in two different homes, your children are going to start seeing you as a happy, healthy person.
Uh-huh. Right.
And
That's
it's
right.
like, oh, and it's like, so that's really good for them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Listen,
To
it's
see
really
that
good for
actually
kids
my
to
mom
have a
is happy,
happy
my dad's happy,
mom.
or yes, a happy.
That's right.
And I know they're
That's
living in two
right.
separate homes. The other thing that between my first husband and I, we were so determined to do was, because I grew up with divorce and a lot of, like, separation, back and forth with my parents.
Mhm.
What I realized is, like, our foundation, that was what was rocked.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it
Sure.
wasn't because my parents, it was because there was volatility. It was like our foundation, like, that we stood on, was not stable. And I
Right.
said to David, my first husband, I was like, this is what we need to do. I know they're going to be in two separate homes. And as scary as that sounds, as long as they are loved and safe, and that
Mhm.
we can maintain our love for each other and respect for each other, they're going to feel that safety. And that foundation
That's
is
right.
not right. Of course, there's
That's
those
right.
transitions,
100%.
but I mean, the
Right.
foundation is strong.
That's right. That's right. And
So,
that's the most, and even if the foundation, only the foundation in your home,
right,
because that's all you can control,
right,
even if that is the only strong foundation, they have a solid, safe place to stand in their lives. And it's enough. It is enough. It's not everything. It's not ideal to
yeah,
have chaos and volatility in the other home. I mean,
right,
my kid was raised with that in his dad's house, just tons of volatility and instability and chaos and all of that, and now he lives with me full time. Like he
yeah,
figured it out.
yeah,
He loves his dad. He has a relationship with his dad, but like he didn't want to deal with that anymore.
yeah. So the other, before we go, because there's so much
Mhm.
I wanted to talk to you about.
Thank you
But
so
time
much.
goes by
Yeah,
too
thank
fast.
you.
I
Yeah.
hope everybody reads your book. I really, Kate, I love it so much, and I think if you're going through
Thank
this,
you.
it's such an amazing resource. So I'm very
Thank
proud
you.
of
That
the work
means
that you're doing.
the world.
But one thing I did want to mention, because this is very important, about therapy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I've experienced so much marriage therapy, and hey, if in my next relationship, it's like, I will continue. I'm in my own therapy on a regular basis, because
Sure.
that is so,
Yes.
not of us have
Same.
that ability or that privilege, but if you can,
Uh-huh.
yes. But marriage therapy. Okay. First of all, the one thing that I would want to say to people is, like, not all therapists are equal. And
No.
you think you're doing the great thing by going to a marriage therapist, but I would encourage people to do their research and ask for, you need to be asking around who is really good. Have you had great success? Because
That's right.
I've had really, really bad therapists and an excellent therapist. And there's, of course,
That's right.
everything in between, but that's really important.
Yeah. It
And
is so
number two-
important.
Yes.
So
Number
important.
two, which you talk about, is you are not going to therapy with somebody who is emotionally, physically, mentally abusing you. You say abuse is not a relationship issue, nor is it a communication problem. It's an abuser problem. And no amount of couples therapy is going to help. This is
That's
a really,
right.
really, really good point for.
Yeah. Yes. It is, I can't drive it home enough. Not only is couples therapy not going to help, it will harm you.
Yes, it will.
It will harm you because they will use your vulnerabilities against you. The vulnerabilities will be exposed in couples therapy. First of all, there are three things that are like contraindicated for couples therapy. One is active abuse. One is, actually, there are four things: active addiction, an active affair, which
right.
I didn't know that it's like, why did our couples therapy work for everybody else? Oh, because you were fucking everybody around us. I did not know that.
Having an affair. It's like, you're not here to fix it if you're still having that affair.
Right. You're not here to fix the marriage. You're here to figure out how you can like keep playing one over on me. And then the other one is an active agenda. Like if one person goes in wanting to change the other, right? So a good couples therapist will recognize abuse and will terminate therapy. I think a therapist it's an ethical gray line, but I do think a therapist who has a conscience will also pull you aside and say, listen, this is what's actually happening. What you're experiencing is abuse. This is not what therapists are trained to do. It's an ethical gray line because they're not supposed to be directive. They're not supposed to be sort of prescriptive, right? Or even like diagnostic, even though like they do it on the paper, they're not going to whatever. I think they're not supposed to say those things to you, but frankly, I think they should. I think it's important for someone to say, I do think that your spouse is abusing you and you may want to, I can't continue with couples therapy, but you do need to find yourself a good individual therapist. And I've had a lot of clients whose couples therapists have said that, and then they've gone on to continue individual work with that therapist, which again, ethical gray line. But I think it's really important to find someone, if someone fires you, there's a good chance they've seen something that makes it contraindicated that they know that they can't work with you. And so you may want to ask them why. Yeah. But, you are exposing yourself. You're exposing your vulnerabilities. I have a client who said to me that she was in couples therapy for a really long time. And the couples therapist was constantly trying to get him to understand that what he was doing was not okay. And it was years and years and years. And then her husband didn't like it. So they went to another therapist, and then that therapist was basically like, he's not going to change. So how can you mold yourself into being like a better wife for this guy who's not going to change?
Yes.
Like, what? Insanity. Please don't do it. Mm-hmm.
No. Okay. So your advice, I love your therapist's advice, Kate, after you went through your divorce. Okay. This is so funny because I'm totally in this place right now. Like, I'm going to get through it, like I said. But you said at the time of my separation, my therapist told me I could consider myself certifiably insane for the next 2 years. Certifiably insane. She actually said those words. And you said, but I'm going to find love in my next life, the love of my life within the next 6 months. Mm-hmm. And she's like, certifiably insane. So, yeah. Funny because I was talking to somebody I'm working with yesterday, and she said this term, I've never heard it before. It's called post-traumatic divorce disorder.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that might be a real thing.
I've heard about that recently. I've never really heard of it either. I don't think it's real, but it's real. It is real. But you're in it. Right. And that's the certifiably insane part. You basically cannot trust yourself to make big life decisions, right? I mean, they say if you when you get sober, they're like, don't make any big changes for the first year. And they also say, don't get into a relationship for the first year, because it's really, you're not thinking with your rational brain. And when you get divorced, I felt like I was making really good decisions. Mm-hmm. And then I look back on I was like, oh my God, you don't know who you are. You don't, right? Just take a year. Just take a year of And look, I mean, some of us like to get out there and have a little fun, and Lord knows I did. And it was really good for me, actually, because, you know, my husband was like, you're not a sexual person. And he like all these things. And I was like, you know, about a couple months into my divorce, I was like, oh yeah, I'm actually very sexual person. Thank you very much. You know, and he's like, you know, whatever, right? And so those things are good for you, but the danger is of thinking you're gonna, you know, thinking you're in love when you're really suffering from post-traumatic divorce disorder.
And you're lonely, or you know, all the things. I think
all the
like,
things.
I like the idea, like you said, it's like this, you know, after you get a divorce for that 1 year or however long, it's taking that time for self-love, self-care, exploration,
healing,
and having fun,
healing.
It's healing.
Yeah.
It's healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Getting yourself
yeah.
back, right? All
yep.
right.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you, Kate Anthony. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to close our little chat with a blessing, which I do with every guest. And it's all based on the learnings that I've gained from you this week. So may we have faith in our resilience and the wisdom to reach out for help from our loved ones and experts in the field while going through the process of divorce. May we come through divorce with dignity, acting from a loving place for ourselves, our children, and our loved ones. And may we view divorce as a fertile ground for self-realization and growth. Divorce can be an opportunity to connect to our true selves and step into our true power. So, thank you, Kate Anthony.
I love that so much. Thank you, Robin. Thank you.
Please visit realloveready.com to become a member of our community. Submit your relationship questions for our podcast experts at reallovereadypodcast@gmail.com. We read everything you send. Be sure to rate and review this podcast. Your feedback helps us get you the relationship advice and guidance you need. The Real Love Ready podcast is recorded and edited by Maya Anstey. Transcriptions by otter.ai and edited by Maya Anstey. We at Real Love Ready acknowledge and express gratitude for the Coast Salish people, the stewards of the land on which we work and play, and encourage everyone listening to take a moment to acknowledge and express gratitude for those that have stewarded and continue to steward the land that you live on as well.